Ambassador Kethra of the Alori Confederacy stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Military Protocols Council, her 6 arms trembling with desperation. Her usually luminous blue skin had faded to a sickly gray, the color of her species when facing existential dread. "The Voidborn have breached our final defensive line," she announced, her voice carrying across the vast amphitheater where representatives from 17 different species gathered. "Our combined fleets follow all the sacred rules of war: minimum casualties, infrastructure preservation, honoring combat. Against the Voidborn's calculated brutality, we are failing." A ripple of fear passed through the assembly. The Voidborn, silicon-based entities driven by pure logic, had conquered 47 systems in 5 years. Their advantage was simple. While the galactic protocols limited warfare to civilized parameters, the Voidborn recognized no such constraints. "We estimate 12 standard cycles before the first core worlds fall," continued Kethra. "Our military strategists calculate a 97% probability of total defeat within the year if current trends continue." General Exar Thok of the Ursaean Military Union, his massive ursine form bristling with cybernetic enhancements, growled, "Surely you're not suggesting we abandon the sacred rules? 10,000 years of civilized warfare." "I'm suggesting," Kethra interrupted, something desperate flickering in her eyes, "that we consult the humans." The amphitheater fell silent, then erupted in chaos. "The humans?" bellowed Councillor Ventark of the Aquatic Dominions. "Those primitive warmongers. They've been members of the galactic community for barely 2 centuries. They refused to sign the Military Ethics Accord," added strategist Prime Luxara of the Crystal Hegemony. "They conduct warfare like they want to win," finished War Sage Tormal of the Ancient Collective quietly. All eyes turned to the eldest member of the council, whose species had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations before most others had developed written language. "The humans," Tormel continued, "wage war differently than any species we have encountered. Not from malice, but from a fundamental philosophical difference. We wage war with rules because we fear what war could become. Humans wage war as if there are no rules because they understand what war already is." 3 days later, Ambassador Kethra found herself aboard the human dreadnought Unconventional Wisdom, meeting with Fleet Admiral Jin Watanabe. The human command deck was unlike anything she'd seen where other species maintained ordered, ritualistic command centers. This was controlled chaos. Officers moved with purpose. Displays showed real-time tactical simulations that violated a dozen military protocols, and the air itself felt charged with creative energy. Ambassador Kethra, Admiral Watanabe, began, her dark eyes holding depths that seemed older than her apparent 40 years. "We've analyzed your situation. The Voidborn are interesting." "Interesting?" Kethra's skin flickered pale green with disbelief. "They've destroyed civilizations." "They're predictable," Watanabe interrupted. "Your species fight by rules. The Voidborn calculate based on those rules. Both of you are playing chess while we—" She smiled grimly. "We play Calvin Ball." At Kethra's confused expression, the Admiral gestured to a holographic display. "Every battle follows patterns. You establish lines. You preserve infrastructure. You minimize casualties. You fight with honor. The Voidborn merely calculate brutality within accepted parameters. Neither of you has considered that the parameters themselves might be weapons." The human battle plan, when presented to the Galactic Council 3 days later, caused such an uproar that several species threatened to break alliance ties. "You propose to weaponize music?" demanded General Zarthok. "To turn civilians into combatants? To deploy psychological warfare on a stellar scale? These violate every sacred law of war." "Wrong," replied Major General Sarah Chen, Watanabe's chief strategist. We're not breaking your rules. We're simply playing a different game entirely. The Voidborn's next offensive targeted the crystalline worlds, expecting the standard defense, ships arranged in geometric formation, ground forces in fortified positions, all following the protocols. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented. The first Voidborn fleet entered the system to the sound of human music specifically, death metal at volumes that created gravitational disruptions. The mathematical minds of the Voidborn, built for calculation, found their processors overloading, trying to pass the deliberately chaotic sound patterns. While confused, they were hit by the second phase, civilian vessels performing uncoordinated attacks. Not suicidal, the humans had evacuated all civilians and replaced them with advanced AI that perfectly mimicked panicked organic behavior. The Voidborn's calculations couldn't account for irrational targets that should have been fleeing, but were instead charging with modified garbage scows. The third phase was psychological, human vessels broadcasting surrender messages while obviously preparing to attack, creating computational paradoxes in the Voidborn's logic matrices. "What in the spiral arms are you doing?" Kithra demanded from the unconventional wisdom's bridge. "War, Ambassador," replied Admiral Watanabe. "Watch and learn." The Voidborn's fourth wave of attacks encountered their first human innovation, the weaponized paradox. Human ships created stable wormholes that connected to themselves, creating infinite loops that trapped Voidborn vessels in spatial recursions. "That's impossible, according to the laws of spatial dynamics," shouted a human ensign. "Yes," nodded the Admiral. The Voidborn thought so too. By day 7, the Voidborn dispatched their command intelligence to assess the unprecedented situation. It materialized as a massive geometric construct above the battlefield,